Hello and welcome to a special talk on equality. So why do we care about equality? Well, because um, if you think about these things in a good way, it can be good financially, and you might feel happier in your work. What is it? It means equal opportunities for all. And there's different kinds of equality. Here we look mostly at gender and a little bit at ethnicity. It relates to many different concepts like ethics, equity, sustainability, and bias. Ethics is what should people do or not do? And there's different ways to define what is good. Like you might say something is good if somebody has a good motivation, if they want to do something just, or you can say that good things tend to result in the greatest good for all people, not just maybe one. Precautionary principle says that we should be careful introducing new technologies, but that doesn't mean that we should just slow down progress. Equity is sometimes contrasted with equality. Equality can be used in this narrow sense to say, we treat everybody exactly the same, even when they have a different situation. And that can lead to some people being unhappy and not getting the chance to do things. So here we mean it in its sort of larger sense, that we treat everybody fairly and nicely. Sustainability. Equality is part of maybe the social pillar of sustainability, especially this Sustainable Goal 5 on gender equality, but there's also bits and pieces related to equality in most of these important goals that we have. This also relates to bias. What is bias? It's an unfair skew in beliefs that leads to systematic and repeatable errors. There's hundreds of different types of bias. Often the word is used in a negative sense, like regarding to gender bias and discrimination related to ethnicity, but it's not always bad. And why do we care about this? Well, same reason. It's good, so everybody is happy while they're learning. Equality in Sweden, there's a low income inequality, which is a nice thing, I think. However, in gender, related to gender, women usually have more education but lower salaries and feel more stressed, and this can start early. About 10% of people in Sweden are born abroad, and they're more represented in some jobs than others. And there's also a higher poverty rate sometimes for these people who immigrated. Some specific problems related to gender is the gender pay gap. Women are less represented in leadership. Women sometimes don't get work because people expect them to go on maternity leave. They might have more work, they work a day job, and then they have to take care of children as well. Women are often less represented in history, apparently. So equality in information technology. Who can study IT? Of course, anybody. I really like this quote, "You've got a right to play the blues." I think it's the exact same thing for IT. So you might be an engineer or computer science if you're in one of our programs, but we also collaborate a lot with people from different fields. There is some gender underrepresentation. This might come in part from stereotypes that computer scientists just stay up late coding, drinking energy drinks, they have no social life, which is quite sad since there's a lot of pioneers in computer science and programming. So at the bottom of the screen are some well-known female leaders in engineering and science related to the stuff that I work on. Ada Lovelace was one of the important figures who established computer science, one of the first people to create programs and to have this idea that computers can be more than just calculators and number crunchers. Margaret Hamilton and her team led people to the moon. They created the software for that. Hedy Lamarr worked with frequency hopping radio stuff and was also in some movies. Grace Hopper built one of the first linkers and was instrumental in programming languages like COBOL. Cecilia Payne discovered what most of the universe is made of, helium and hydrogen. Nellie Bly was a CEO of an engineering company and also had patents, and also did some other amazing stuff like exposing bad treatment at insane asylums and breaking a world record in going around the world in less than 80 days. There's many other examples of great work by female engineers and scientists. Equality in IT, usually men have higher salaries in the US and Canada with PhDs, which might be because they're more willing to ask for raises, and women sometimes make concessions for families. In the US, about 20% of IT professionals are women, earning a little bit less. And the most common ethnicity is white, followed by Hispanic and Asian. In Sweden, it's about the same, 20% female. There's some groups trying to help this. Equality in the IT systems we create. People often trust these algorithms and programs because they think they don't have a personal agenda, but it's easy for bias to creep in. There's different examples of bias related to gender, like men getting higher paid ads or getting preferential treatment when being hired. Translation online using male pronouns as defaults, LinkedIn thinking it's a mistake if you use a female name, and these adult search result if you look for women rather than men. With ethnicity, a Black couple was at one point considered to be gorillas mistakenly by an algorithm. And looking for Black teenagers could yield mugshots. And if you take pictures of Asians, the algorithm maybe thought that they were blinking. And there's these sort of well-known examples of these virtual agents that were sort of corrupted by strange data, or just can't even talk about anything sensitive. These are some categories where bias can creep in IT. How do we deal with it? We can look at different ideas from design and testing. And in higher education here at Halmstad University, this is a national objective, that you know more about this and work with it more. So at Halmstad University, you're sometimes going to write reports like the thesis, where you have to consider this kind of thing. Also, if you encounter any kind of discrimination, let me or somebody else know. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed this session. Some references.